Welcome to SBC 103D, Protection Agencies and Community Relations. Still under Unit 3, where we're speaking about criminal justice system in Ghana. And for this session that will talk about components of criminal justice system, we will basically speak about various components that makes up the criminal justice system. And as always, it promises to be fun. You're going to be educated, and I urge you to take part in the discussion as we proceed. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the principal components of the criminal justice system in Ghana, determine the functions of the principal components of the criminal justice system in Ghana, explain the subcomponents of the criminal justice system and how they are interrelated. We will first talk about the components of the criminal justice system, and I believe that you remember when you spoke about the former agencies within the country. What are some of the former agencies within the society? Good, the police. So we first talk about the police and what are they responsible for? Good. The police is to prevent crime. Yes. So they are to prevent crime and effect arrests of criminals. Even when criminals are arrested, they must be handed to the police if it has to do with the citizen's arrests for onwards processing for the courts. The police are the gatekeepers of the criminal justice system in Ghana. They are the primary enforcers of the laws of the country. And as a result, they are most visible and widespread in the country. In fact, even in communities where you might not see other members of the protection agencies, it is likely that you find the police in those communities. When a crime occurs in the remotest village or hamlet in a country, the police goes to the scene and investigate the crime. The gatekeeping role has made the police to face serious dangers in the line of their duties, and you might be aware that police are being killed in the line of their duty. They sometimes confront armed robbers who sometimes often fire on them and wound and to some extent kill some of them. So these are the work and responsibilities of the police. The second group that we talk about is the judiciary. We mostly call them the courts. The courts determine the guilt or otherwise of a person who is alleged to have committed a crime based on the laws of the country. The courts determine the guilt of an innocent person who has been accused for a crime. The courts are clothed with the powers to dispense justice without fear or favor. The Constitution grants the judges and the magistrates the independence to do their work without any interference from external influences, including politicians. They are granted security of tenure, and I believe their security of tenure is somewhere around 70 years. No one has the power to capriciously remove them from the position except in instances where they had engaged in professional misconduct, conduct that are against their profession. We continue with the other component of criminal justice system, that is the correctional facilities. And the correctional institution or the prisons are responsible for rehabilitation or information of offenders. Those who are found guilty by the courts are handed over to the correctional institutions. The general purpose of correctional institution is to reform offenders, not to necessarily punish them for their offense. The reinformation and rehabilitation involves training of offenders so that they could acquire skills and competences. And these are intended to ensure that when these offenders finish serving their prison sentence, they will become productive so that they will need not to resort to crime again. But the question is, have you ever seen anyone in your community who has returned from prison? If yes, how has the family and the society received the person? Now we further zoom into the sub-component of the criminal justice system in Ghana. And the principal component of criminal justice in Ghana, as we have spoken about, the police, the courts, and then the correctional facilities. So we will zoom into the subcomponents of those institutions within the major components. So the first, we will take the police, and the police has several departments or units under its umbrella. Amongst them is the CID, that is Criminal Investigation Department, which is responsible for investigating crime and prosecuting criminal cases. The Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit, DOVSU, which deals with issues of domestic abuse by people in the domestic relationship, which we will speak about subsequently. The Motor Transport and Traffic Directorate within the police is also an agency or a department within the police service. They are mandated to ensure safety on our highways. We have highway patrol units responsible for patrolling the highway in order to prevent crime such as robberies, drug trafficking, amongst others. We have the Public Affairs Directorate that is responsible for educating the public on issues related to the work of the police and how the public is expected to conduct themselves in order to enhance the work of the police. The court has a structure which is hierarchical or order in nature. Ghana's courts can be broadly divided into the superior courts and the inferior courts. The superior courts includes, and in the order of magnitude, the Supreme Court, which is the apex court of the land, followed by the appeals court, and then to the high courts, to the regional tribunals, circuit court, magistrate courts, and special courts. But then for the Supreme Court, appeals courts, high courts, and regional tribunals constitutes the superior courts, whereas the circuit courts, magistrate courts, and the special courts constitute the inferior courts. The last group that we talk about will be the correctional institutions, and it has 4 different substructures. We have the central prisons, we have the local prisons, camp prisons, and agricultural settlements camp. They are also the senior correctional centers that is used to know as the Buster institution, where juvenile offenders are trained in the country. And all these subcomponents work together to ensure justice in the country when these subcomponents are treated well in terms of budgetary allocation and logistics. Your girls will be good as mine. They will work efficiently to ensure that the criminal justice system becomes efficient. I believe you understand what the discussion is about. I believe you have understood what has been discussed. As this session has basically spoken about components of the criminal justice system, its subcomponents, where we have the various orders and departments within the various components, i.e. the police, the courts, and then the correctional facilities. And I believe that you have really learned a lot. Join me as we continue to talk about criminal justice system from a different angle, and until we meet to talk about that, I will only say bye for now. Thank you for your time and for your attention. Thank you.